All right, take a look at your credit card statement. I'm willing to bet you'll find at least one of them. You know, that small recurring charge for a subscription you signed up for months ago and barely even think about now. It's easy to miss, right? But that small monthly fee, when you multiply it by millions of us, adds up to a huge and very reliable source of income for these companies.
But then you decide to cancel it. And suddenly, that super easy one-click sign-up you remembered turns into this frustrating maze of hidden links, confusing offers, and pop-ups. So the real question is, why is it so much harder to leave a service than it was to join? Is it just bad design?
Well, the short answer is no. This isn't an accident. It's not a technical glitch or some oversight by the web team. This difficulty, it's completely intentional. It's a carefully designed strategy to keep you paying. In the tech world, there's a saying for this. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
So, let's talk about this strategy. Its whole purpose is to create what's known as friction. Basically, to build a cancellation maze that's so confusing and takes so much time to navigate that you just give up. Let's take a look at how this maze is actually built.
The official term for these kinds of tactics is dark patterns. And look, this isn't a brand new idea. It's really just the digital version of old-school marketing traps we've seen for decades. The difference is, online, these tricks can be used on a massive scale, and with a level of precision that makes them incredibly good at getting you to make financial choices you wouldn't normally make.
And this isn't just some tech insider slang. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has a formal definition for them. They call them design practices that trick or manipulate users and that may cause harm. When a federal agency steps in like this, it really underlines the financial risk here, and it's exactly why regulators are starting to pay very close attention. Okay, so to really get why these tactics are so effective and so profitable for companies, we have to go a little deeper. We need to look at the psychology behind it. Because dark patterns aren't just about a confusing website layout, they're about exploiting very predictable patterns in how we all make decisions.
First up is something called loss aversion. Psychologically, we're all wired to feel the pain of losing something about twice as much as we feel the pleasure of gaining that same thing. So companies use this. They frame canceling as a loss. You'll lose your premium benefits. You'll lose your viewing history. You'll lose this special rate. It makes you hesitate, even if you know you're not really getting much value from the service anymore.
Next, we have the sunk cost fallacy. This is that little voice in your head that tells you to stick with something just because you've already put time or, more importantly, money into it. You know the feeling. You keep paying for a subscription you don't use just so your past payments don't feel like a total waste. You tell yourself, oh, I'll definitely use it next month to get my money's worth.
And finally, there's default bias and inertia. Think about it. Automatic renewal is almost always the default setting when you sign up. Companies know we have a natural tendency to just stick with the default. It takes effort to go in and cancel. Doing nothing means they keep charging your card. So the path of least resistance is deliberately designed to be the one that costs you money month after month.
So, these psychological tricks aren't just theories in a textbook. They're being used out in the real world every day. Let's look at a couple of actual examples from FTC cases that show exactly how companies put these dark patterns into practice.
First, let's look at Lending Club. The company's big promise in its advertising was no hidden fees. Sounds great, right? Well, the FTC found they were hiding an origination fee that could cost borrowers hundreds of dollars. And where is this fee disclosed? It was buried in a tiny little info icon that you'd only see if you knew to hover your mouse over it. It was incredibly easy to miss.
Here's another one, the children's learning site, ABC Mouse. Their big selling point was easy cancellation. But when parents actually tried to cancel, they found something very different. Instead of a simple process, they were shoved into a confusing maze of pop-ups, special offers, and misleading links, all designed to make them just give up.
The FTC actually mapped it out. The cancellation process took somewhere between 6 and 9 different screens to get through. On each screen, you'd be hit with new promotions or confusing options. And if you clicked the wrong link, which was very easy to do, it would kick you right out of the cancellation process, and you'd have to start all over. This is a classic example of what regulators call sludge. It's friction, deliberately added to a process to make you quit.
So, with all of this happening, the obvious question is, what's being done to stop it? Well, as these tactics have gotten more and more common, regulators have started to step in, and that's led to an ongoing back and forth over how to protect consumers online.
This fight has been going on for a while. Way back in 2010, Congress passed a law called the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act. You'll see it called ROSCA. More recently, the FTC tried to create a new, tougher click-to-cancel rule. But that rule ended up getting thrown out by a court for procedural reasons. Now, it's important to understand that does not mean companies now have a free pass.
Because even without that specific new rule, there's still a pretty strong framework in place. First, that federal law, ROSCA, is still active, and it requires a simple cancellation process. Then you have state laws. Places like California and New York have their own rules that are often even stricter. And here's one a lot of people don't know about. The credit card companies themselves, like Visa and MasterCard, have their own rules. They require easy online cancellation because they don't want to deal with a flood of angry customer chargebacks.
And make no mistake, this is not a small problem affecting just a few people. The data is pretty clear. Over 62%, a huge majority, of consumers say they've had a hard time trying to cancel a subscription. That tells you just how widespread and how effective these tactics really are.
So what's the big takeaway here? Really, it's that being aware of these tactics is your best defense. Once you can spot the playbook, when you understand what loss aversion is, when you can recognize sludge, when you know what a dark pattern looks like, you're in a much better position to see these tricks for what they are and make a clear choice about your money.
And in the end, it all comes down to a pretty fundamental question. When you look at those monthly charges on your statement, are they there because you're actively choosing to pay for that service? Or are they just the result of a system that's designed to profit from you doing nothing? The answer to that really tells you who's in control of your